Hello again. Welcome to Quoth Raven, Lewis Brett Raven. I'm your host, Lewis Brett Raven, 28-year veteran of comics, science fiction, fantasy, and role-playing games as a writer, illustrator, and editor. Today is book 23 of, or day 23, pardon me, of Booktober 2020. We do reviews of books and comics and stuff, and mostly doing comics throughout the month, but today we're going to start with an actual book, post fiction. So let's get to that. And our first book of the day is The Dispatcher hardcover for $28.99 from Subterranean Press. Author is John Scalzi. The jacket cover artist was Vincent Chong. And the genre is science fiction crime drama. This was originally released in October 2016 and is out of print. You'll have to try and find it in the back. Amazon and stuff for like getting back copies. It was originally released in 2016, and the ISBN number is 978-1-59606-786-8. And what it's about, Tony Valdez is a hired killer with a twist. He's really not a killer, but anyway. And the twist is in that in this alternate reality envisaged by Scaldi, murder follows rules familiar to many of a multi-platform role-playing game, online role-playing game, where your death at another's hands will lead you to respawning your character at one's home base instead of being straight out killed. Basically, if you're killed by anything that's an unnatural method, that's murder or stuff like that, your body will reform approximately 24 to 36 hours before you were killed, with complete awareness of what happened to you. So anyway, you retain all the memory of your previously final moments. Your physical state is reset to like the 12 to 36 hours before your death. So his function in society is to be on hand for intrinsically hazardous situations. In other words, operating procedures where something happens and it's considered murder by negligence or something like that, and assist with dispatching the afflicted if something goes wrong. 999 times out of 1,000, he's really not needed, and it works, leaving the victim with nothing worse than a hangover, headache, and a fresh impetus for therapy. But these rules only apply to murder. In Tony's world, accidental death is still fatal, as is suicide. So for those who might find themselves grievously injured but not dead, Tony's involvement can be more of a ministering agent than a murderer, at least 99.9% of the time. It's a setup, in short, somewhere between Groundhog Day, Ian Banks' Transition, and Richard Morgan's Altered Carbon. If you're familiar, most of you are familiar with the movie Groundhog Day with Bill Murray. I'm not so sure if you're familiar with Ian Banks or Richard Morgan's work, but those are other books. If you can't get The Dispatcher, you might want to try and find those books that are along similar ideologies. The story revolves around a police investigation into the disappearance of Tony's colleague, Jimmy Albert, who's another dispatcher. He's approached by Detective Noah Langdon of the Chicago Police Force investigating the disappearance for possible information on Jimmy's whereabouts. Tony doesn't have any, but he gets roped into this case anyway because his friend is missing. Can he find and save his friend from a fate not even a dispatcher can save him from? Scalzi is extremely deft in the pacing of the story. This was originally written as an audio story, period, and it was collected as prose a year later or so. And so the prose is very quick and punchy, and it moves the story along at a pace that may seem a little bit off because of the fact that it was written as an audio drama first. But it's very, very quick read. It's like 130 pages, and I read it in like an hour and a half. In most cases, it's the other way around. You have the book, and then they make an audio version of the book. So that's part of why this is a little bit different. Like I said, it comes in clocking in at a terse 130 pages of story, and there's just not that much time to explore the hows and whys of his alternate universe. Though Scalzi has penned a sequel, Murder by Other Means, which came out in audiobook last September, and we will see the second book to this by second quarter of 2021. At least that's what I'm being told by sources that are reliable. So in the audio category, audio story category, this story was nominated for multiple awards. It was nominated for the best science fiction story for the audio awards and for excellence in marketing, and it actually won the audio award for best original work. Now, personally, I don't think this is anywhere close to John Scalzi's best writing. If you want to, you can look up John Scalzi on, just Google him and you'll find a lot of cool stuff by him. He's an excellent author. But for what this is and how it was produced and how it is being produced with the second book as well, I think it's well produced and it lends itself very well to the performance of the characters, rather than the full tilt world building or plotting. But I think with the second book, John will probably go more towards world building. Maybe, I don't know for sure. Haven't talked to him about it, but if I get a hold of him, he's not an easy person to get in touch with necessarily for interviews or anything. He might be very busy, who knows? But if I can get talk with him about it before the book gets released through Subterranean Press, I'll certainly have him on the show before it comes out. I recommend the story for ages 17 and up because there's a lot of there's language in it, and it's a pretty gruesome thing that goes on. And here you can basically be left. It's not murder if you leave them to die, but they're going to die of natural because of their injuries or whatever. I guess it's not considered murder. And if you dispatch them 3 hours before and they're still in the same condition, they'll still die. So it's like, I don't know. It's a weird thing. Anyway, 4 stars of the book out of 5. Let's go ahead and go on to the next book. And that's Mr. Miracle, trade paperback, $24.99. The publisher is DC Comics, the writer is Tom King, the artist is Mitch Gerads. The genre is science fiction superhero, and the ISBN number is 978-1-4012-8354-4. Before I see what it's about, the cover says Eisner Award winner, best writer, best artist. It's not for their work on this book. It's for Batman. And I don't like that there. That is false advertisement. So a little bit annoying with that. But anyway, what it's about. Scott Free is Mr. Miracle, the world's greatest escape artist. But he and his wife, Big Barda, don't realize that something has gone horribly wrong with the life they built for themselves here on Earth. Away from the war between the New Gods and Darkseid. But when Highfather of the New Gods dies, Scott is thrust into a whole new realization of others see him and what he needs to do to respect his father's legacy of peace in a world that is largely oblivious to their very existence. It's a nice concept, I guess, but the book has many of the same issues that I've had reviewing King's Strange Adventures on this channel. I have said recently, actually multiple times, that Strange Adventures should have finished up at issue 6, but it's going 12 issues. It's just, he constantly repeats himself in his structure, and it's tedious. I thought maybe, because it's that way because I'm reading it in singles and I'm having to wait for it. But this is a complete story package, and it's the same problem. It's even more pronounced in this book than what it has been, because with at least singles, I could pretend there's hope he'll figure out that he's recycling the same shtick, and there's some damn point to it, but there isn't, and there's no point to it here in this book, if any example is any example. Editors need to bash his fingers with a sledgehammer. Yes, Tom, we know you used to be CIA. Yes, Tom, we know you think that you know how to properly represent what real world interrogations look like. Guess what? Hollywood version is more direct and to the point and is better than what you're doing. Now quit with the nonsense and get on with the damn story. So what is this story supposed to be about anyway? That Scott Free, Mr. Miracle, is afraid of death in his entire existence, has been about the ultimate escape. Funny, I don't remember seeing a single panel of this book featuring the Black Racer, who is the embodiment of death in Kirby's Fourth World, which is what Mr. Miracle is connected to? Or is it that he's afraid of parenthood or afraid to take over as leader of the New Gods once Highfather is gone? King just makes this character a real. He makes him so anxious and anxiety laden and wimpy that nobody should remotely like the character, at least in my opinion. I just really did not like this book. He's like one of those super celebrities who has it all, only you, the audience, don't really know him. So let's show how much he does not have to prove he's just like everybody else. Yeah, nobody freaking cares. We get enough of that with reality TV. I don't know about what the rest of you look for out there, but that's not what I'm looking for in my comic books. This was such an immediate and complete turn off of a book that I'm thinking about canceling the rest of Strange Adventures because I can assume that it's going to be the same tone and the same tone deafness in the end. In Strange Adventures, Adam Strange and Alana's daughter has gone missing, presumably dead. At least Alana claims she's dead. Must be because Adam can't handle being a father or some other internalized nonsense, because we can't have any father figure heroes in the DC universe other than Batman, who turns all of his charges into sidekicks to be sent into battle, don't you know? I will give Mitch Gerads credit for his effort in the work as the artist. He's trying to make chicken salad out of chicken poop here, as far as I'm concerned, but he does a halfway decent job, of keeping the reader engaged visually, even though there's really no story worth reading here. I give it a 2 out of 5. It's less than average, and that's why I say, putting the Eisner Award-winning Best Writer, Best Artist logo on that cover is just a complete false advertising on DC's part. I mean, they qualify it on the back cover and say they want it for Batman, but you don't need to put that on the front cover because that's implying that book won it. Here's some of the artwork from Mitch Gerads. And yes, that blurriness is how the page looks on the left in the actual printed book. That's the effect that Gerads is looking for. It's kind of like a weird TV blur. TV's not working or whatever. He's showing how he got out of the emergency room. He's all messed up with from whatever he escaped from last time. And there's this little white thing in the bottom right is a boom tube from, the New Gods' homeland. And Orion, who is now kind of like the head of the New Gods after Highfather died, comes out and says, okay, he's already got, remember, he's got basically broken wrists here. He's already just got out of the hospital from something else that has nothing to do with it. So Orion comes in and says, okay, orders him to stand. Okay, he's standing. And Orion just punches him in the face. Now stand again. I know, standing. Do it again. Do it again. It's like, what's the point? You're a soldier. You're supposed to just stand and take it. Eventually in the storyline, Barda wakes up from her nap and basically tells Orion to take a hike. And she kind of asks him, like, what are you taking it for? But it is what it is. But anyway, like I said, not a fan of that particular story. John Norris says, hello, John. Hope you're feeling a little bit better today. You were a little bit out of it last night after you came home for a long day. Our last book of the day is Surge, a DNAGENTS miniseries, number 1 through 4. They were $1.50 each. I got them for $1 at my local store in the back issues. And the publisher is Eclipse Comics, written by Mark Evanier. Artists are Rick Hoberg and Al Gordon. The genre is superhero. It was originally released from July 84 to January 85. There was a couple of months delayed. Maybe the book ran a little bit late. I don't know. But what it's about, the DNA agent hero known as Surge goes on a personal manhunt for the assassin who murdered the girl he barely knew, but in his mind was his loved-be. Meanwhile, another superpowered being, Lancer, and I'll show you who Lancer is in just a second, sets his sights on a confrontation with Surge after he is rebuked by a TV show for an appearance on a TV show because the DNA agents are more newsworthy. Lancer is this guy with the white hair. It's not a bad series. I'd never read any DNA agents before, to my recollection. And I didn't need an info dump of backstory to understand what story is going on. So kudos to Evanier for this, because, I mean, this is 80s. They actually know how to write comics and give you backstory without huge info dumps, unlike today. But nevertheless, you know, it's good that he was able to do this. Finally, there my, I don't know why I got a delay on that banner, but I did. Anyway, Hoberg and Gordon make for an interesting tandem as the art team. I think you can tell by these covers, they kind of look like, they feel like very Byrne Austin type look from the 80s. But it's still their own look. Hoberg was trying to do Byrne, but still be his own style, and Gordon seemed to be trying to lay down the Austin style ink line. But they're not them, number one, and number two, they don't seem to understand how much of the Byrne Austin 80s look was Austin's own style overpowering John Byrne's style, because it's very much Austin overpowering him when Austin was at the peak of his powers as an inker. So it feels like it's not an amateur attempt, but it's a slightly off look if that's what they were going for. But no matter what, the artwork looks nice, and it's still a nice story, and it's a nice series for what it is. I gave it a 3.5 stars, recommended for ages 13 and up. Let's take a look at the art. Now, something that really, when I say I know you're looking at Byrne and Austin, is this very first panel on the left with the assassin Luger, and this pose is almost identical to a John Byrne Austin pose in The Art of John Byrne from SQP Productions from 1980 of Lex Luthor holding a gun. It's almost identical pose. He just changed the position of the arms and the gun enough that and of course he gave the guy hair, but I mean it looks so close to the pose. It's not even funny. It's like a blatant swipe. The rest of it's pretty kind of cool, though. You know, like I said, you can see a little bit of the Austin inking style in the hair of the female here, as well. You can see the Austin style inks in how the legs are rendered, the hatch style, the line art style of the rocks is very similar to Austin. The page on the right gets a little bit more towards Hoberg's actual style. But again, we see this Gordon really going for the Austin look on the close-up of the female face in the third panel. That would be the panel with the woman up close looking at the Lancer bending a steel girder. You can tell it looks very similar to Austin's ink style, and that they're going for that kind of look. And, again, you can look at the artwork and you can see the way that certain people are doing cheekbones. It's the Byrne Austin look on the cheekbones. It's the just certain things that are just very clear that they're trying to get that kind of look. And that's not a bad thing necessarily, but in a way it is, because even though that's a very cool look, it kind of makes you, well, you're not as good as them, so why should I buy that when I can get them, type of thing sometimes too. So I don't know, but overall it's an interesting look. And I look at Lancer and I kind of wonder if Eric Larson saw this book, because it looks so much like the barbaric character from his Freak Force series, with the hairstyle hanging out and the ponytail and everything. The only thing that's missing is like the two ponytails hanging down the side. So I kind of wonder if Eric saw this at some point. And I'm not saying he swiped it, but he could have been. What's the word I'm looking for? Shoot. Indirectly influenced by it in his subconscious. That's what I was looking for. That's where I wanted, subconscious. So I think subconsciously he probably was. Nighthawk Warrior comes in and says, "Cool covers. I wish I could stay, but I think it's a new day. Yeah, check out the stream tomorrow. It's fine. No problem. Thanks for stopping in, Nighthawk." Yeah, inspired. I was thinking more, like I said, subconsciously, and maybe in his mind he was thinking he was doing it, but it was subconsciously influenced or inspired by that other stuff. Yeah, that happens all the time. I know I've done characters where I thought I was doing an original design, and someone said, "Hey, you're swiping such and such," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, I see what you're saying. Wasn't intended, didn't do it, wasn't meaning to, but yeah, okay, I see it." So I think it's kind of what may have happened with Larson there, maybe. I'm not accusing him of anything. It's just it's just an observation on my part. Okay, so that's our reviews, I believe. We got one more thing. Yes, in the back of those books, of the Surge books, there were these really cool T-shirt ad, and I said, "Don't go naked," and they show you the shirts, and I had to go online because I wanted to see what these shirts actually looked like back then, and I found some, as you can see. These are the actual shirts that were made back in the 80s. These are actual vintage shirts that you can buy on eBay. And I was like, I'm not buying them because, well, yeah, I'm not buying old vintage clothing particularly. But I thought that was kind of fascinating. And I kind of wish that some of this stuff like Zot and Destroyer Duck, I wish Graffiti Productions or somebody would pick up the licenses and remake these as modern shirts to because we do a lot of throwback type stuff that's from the 80s that we're remaking as shirts these days. Pardon me. I wish that they would do that because to me that's a lot more interesting to look at than a lot of the T-shirts that they're making these days of the modern comic stuff. I don't have a list of books for tomorrow for sure. Or actually, I kind of do, but I don't have the graphics to show. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show the books that I'm planning to review tomorrow. We're going to review these 3 True Believers Black Widow related series. One's Champions, and 2 are the Avengers. This is a copy of Avengers 196, which was the first appearance of Taskmaster. And where's the other one? Here we go. This is another Avengers storylines. We're going to review those 3 books. We're going to review the 4-issue miniseries World of Krypton by John Byrne, Mike Mignola, and we're going to review two copies of Smile and Ed comics from Fanico, which was done by I can't think of his name. Vizina, I think is his last name, or Vizina, and this is from 1980. And it has a sub story from Fred Hembeck called The Dog. So we're going to review those as well. So that'll be like 9 comics we'll be reviewing tomorrow. And then also tomorrow, I will, from like 3 to 6, I will do live draw. And what I'll be doing is drawing pumpkin sketch cards for Halloween Fest, more or less, because I'm going to do Halloween at my local comic shop. And those are my giveaway cards. And I'm going to redo what I was drawing last night. My guest from last night's show, Gary Shipman, I was trying to draw his character Titan the Mouse, Mouse and Might. And for whatever reasons last night, I just wasn't at all on point with the look and the design of the character. So I'm going to go back and redo that. And not only I'm going to do it larger so that people can see it. So be sure to watch that tomorrow at 3 p.m. for the live draw. Okay. With that being said, if you want to reach me, you can reach me at Facebook at lewis.brightraven, DeviantArt, not speaking well today. DeviantArt.com/brightraven is my art site. On YouTube at Quoth the Raven Lewis Bright Raven. Gmail address, if you want to email me, it's quothetheravenlbr72@gmail.com. And you can also reach me at lewisbrightraven@yahoo.com. The regular weekly podcast airs Thursdays at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but we will be back tomorrow for 2 shows, one at 1:30 for the next Booktober, day 24, and at 3 p.m. For the live draw event. So I will see you then. Until then, have a good weekend, and we'll see you either tomorrow or next time. Okay.